Okay, so can you give a 1 minute intro about yourself, like who you are, what you're interviewing for, what level you are, things like that?
Sure. I'm Sarah. I am a new grad, graduated 6 months ago. My interests are in machine learning, AI, and web dev. I'm aiming for entry level roles.
Okay, cool. Okay, so right now it's 6:35, so we will go until 7:15. Okay, so the first problem is going to be pretty straightforward, more of an implementation problem. You're given two decimals as strings. So for example, let's say you're given like 2 point this or something, and then another one maybe like this. And what I want you to return is their sum as a string. So pretend they are too big to just like cast to ints or decimals or whatever. Pretend they can't fit in memory, so you can't cast the whole thing and add it together and return the result. You can take a chunk and cast it if you want to, but you can't take the whole thing. And feel free to ask me anything you want to.
Okay. So two decimals and then return their sum as a string.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So can these decimals be like negative or 0?
So let's make it easier. Let's say they can't be 0, they can't be negative, and they will always have a decimal, but they might not be the same length. So as you can see, like here, they're not the same length.
Okay. So they can be positive and they can. Okay. I'm just going to write that
Sure.
down. And okay, so return their sum as a string. So just adding it and then returning it as a string.
Yep.
So is it, I feel like I'm misinterpreting it. You're just you're just given those two and then you just add, like, if they're like variable 1 plus variable 2 and then.
Yes, but they're strings, so you can't like add them
Oh, they're
together.
strings. Oh, my bad.
Yes. Yeah, obviously it wouldn't be like add two number. Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
Because
okay.
basically, I don't know what the Python rules is, but in most languages, there's like requirements for the size of an int. I think Python probably does have it. It's just like massive. So let's just pretend it's
Yeah.
like a million characters where you can't just like add it together and return it.
Okay. So I'd have to process each of those strings. And all right. And in like, well, brute force would be to do it in a loop, right? So like if you have, because you have to do them when you're adding them, you have to add the ones with the ones and tens with the tens place. So from backwards almost, right? Because your string is going the other way. Um, yeah, and these, like, the front of them could be anything, right? It could be like really big numbers too.
Yes, so they're not guaranteed to like line up at all. They can be any size. All you're guaranteed is they're non-zero positive and they have a decimal place.
Okay. So I guess if you process it until you find the decimal, you can add those separately and then add the ones after the decimal place separately
Okay.
in the loop. So um yeah, so if they're both strings, you're just adding them.
Okay. So you're saying like find the decimal, split it on the decimal, and like add the section separately?
Mhm.
Okay.
You'd have to store them. Um, so these numbers, they're so big that you can't. Okay.
Yeah, you still can't like split it and add the numbers directly. Like you can assume that each section, like the limits are too big to just add the section by itself.
Okay, so we could split it up into smaller sections then. We can,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
um,
if you have a string of a million characters and you split it into like one character at a time, you can add those, obviously.
yeah. Yeah, so then the question would be how would you align those two? I guess when you're going through it. I guess we could take the length of the shorter string, see like which is the minimum, right? Has lesser characters.
Okay.
And then we can loop through that because we wouldn't want to go out of bounds. But there would be lots of different cases in case if the decimal is at different spots. You could have like one that's much larger, but it's like 0 point something, something, something. But
Yeah. So ideally, I mean, ideally you don't have a solution that checks for like 50 edge cases. You know, it just like is pretty covers like everything kind of nicely. And I guess there can't be like too many edge cases if like only one can be bigger and one can be smaller and stuff. But yeah,
yeah.
basically the more difficult solution you think of, the harder it is to code. So up to you what you come up with.
Okay. So if you loop through the smaller string lengthwise. So, okay, I'm just going to take like a simple example
Okay.
first. If it's like 1.01 and 2.01, 2. So you take the smaller string and then you'll start from 1. And we could have a temporary storage, like an array or something, to store our current value. And we can keep adding those two at that point so that start adding it right when you get to the decimal point. So once you get to the decimal point, you have it already stored what is previously. So store the current value before the decimal point, and then once you, well, you could have an operation that, the thing is, if you just keep adding it while you're doing it, you don't know if it's the correct place, is the only thing. Because this could be like 23, and then you'd be adding it all wrong. So yeah, if you get to the decimal point, even the beginning, you can't just store it into like its own thing.
Yeah, so there's like a few valid solutions. So basically you said like I want to do the part before the decimal and the part after the decimal. You mentioned that, right? So how would you
Yeah.
do that? And then like how can you fix like aligning things correctly? Because like if you take the whole number and you just start adding stuff, like the 1 and the 2 for example, you don't know if they're lined up at all. So how
Right.
do we fix like the alignment issue? Where then there's like a few things we could do.
Well, you could store in like string 1, string 2, those two, and then do the operations after. If we find a decimal, like have a condition for the decimal, and then if that's actually that would only be for a current one, and then we could stop the operation for the other one. So if we find a decimal first, let's say for this, then we want to stop there. We don't want to keep looping through. So even in the loop itself, it could be like a while loop, and it's like 2 pointers you're checking to see where the decimal is.
Wait, so I'm
So
confused. So you're looking for the decimal string or you're adding the numbers together? Like what are you doing?
I'm looking for the decimal first,
Okay.
and I'm storing it while I'm doing that, so it's not wasting
I see. So you're
time.
getting. So do you know something in Python that will basically do this for you? That you don't need to look for the decimal first, and you can like get the chunks you need.
Like dot split or something, some
Yeah.
function.
So dot split will basically split it into 2 halves if that's what you're trying to do.
Yeah. So, okay. Okay, in that case, I would have 4 parts, the beginning and the end for each of those.
Okay.
then, right, for each of the strings.
Yes.
And the same thing for S2 with dot split. Okay. And then you already know you've split it in half. You have the first part of it. And then for adding, you would start by adding the end first. So like you could reverse both of those. There's like a dart reverse in Python.
Okay.
You can reverse and add just the front part of those strings. Or first you would have to, you could go one by one, and casting those to an int and then adding them. And then you'd have to deal with the carryover as well.
So this is for the like the decimal section or the number section?
The number section.
I see. So you'd reverse and add, so you'd get like basically something like this, and then you can just add.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. So that would give you the total of that part. Okay. And then how do you do the decimal section?
The decimal section, well, the first part isn't even finished, right? Because in case there's like a carryover, because I'm casting it to an int for every single digit,
Mhm.
because the whole thing won't fit into it. Well, I don't think even the front part itself
That's
does that.
right. Yeah.
So yeah, that's, you'd have to do one at a time, and then you would have to store the carries in another thing, like an int or something,
Hmm.
and then use that every time. And then for the decimals, you would do a similar thing, but once you get to that very last decimal place, you would have to see if you need to carry that over into the number. If this is like a 0.9, I think that would. I'm trying to think of any way it wouldn't.
So you'd reverse and you would add like the last thing and so on until you get to the end. Same thing as you did with the front.
Yeah. And then I'd have to, of course, if it's over 9 or whatever for the decimal part, I'd have to add that into the integer part of it.
Okay, so let's take this example, right? So we're adding 0.21 and 0.912. If we reverse them, it would be 219 and 12, right? If we add, we wouldn't get the right result here.
Yeah.
So how do we fix that issue?
So don't reverse it. Yeah, just add it normally, because then add it normally and then add the extra carry to the integer part if it is above 0.9. Well, actually, yeah, if this first number over there, if you get an answer that's bigger than 9, then you want to add that, whatever is left over, to the integer part.
Okay, so if you do it this way, now your carries, like let's say you calculate something where you get like a 1, and now what if this is like a 9? Now like you'll get a 0, but then you'll carry, but then you already wrote down your number, so will you like increase it or something?
So like, what do you mean?
Okay, so if you add these two leftmost digits, right, you'll get a 1, and you'll carry the 1 to the integer part.
Yeah.
Then you're going to add the next two numbers, and you'll get a 0, and then you need to carry the 1. So would you just like override your 1 and do like this or something?
Oh.
Because like you're writing a number, and then your carry needs to like go update that number.
Okay. We could just do the adding without worrying about the integer part for now. And then to carry it over, you'd have to. Would you be able to do the whole thing and then after you do the whole thing? Well, okay, you'd have to keep track of the carry while you're doing it.
So I think reversing definitely makes it easier, but the problem here is we can't reverse. But what can we do to make it possible to reverse?
You can't reverse it.
Like, how can we modify the input to allow us to reverse? And then it would be a lot easier.
I guess you could put the whole thing backwards and then add it.
You could put the whole thing backwards and then add it. That does work. But the thing is still the 2 and the 1 doesn't line up, right? That's our original problem. Like,
Yeah.
you can't add it like that. So how can you modify the input? So even if you, okay, you can reverse the whole thing, but what do you need to do to make it so they line up?
You make it a whole integer, like whatever.
Well, if you make it a whole integer, you still have the decimal part, which is like the part that's getting screwed up.
Yeah.
So how can you, like, if I have 2 decimals, how can I reverse them and add them? Like, what do I have to do first so then they line up together? Like, if you think about it, how are you doing the math? Like, right, if I do this, like, if I just do like mental math, right?
Adding zeros.
Yeah.
Okay. So then if we add the 0, then that fixes that problem. And then we could also do the same for the integer part. Well, no, actually. You could add only if it's like beginning zeros like that, but.
So for the integer part, do you need to add zeros or are they lined up already when you do a reverse?
No, you don't. Yeah, you don't need to add the zeros because, yeah, you're doing it. Okay, that makes sense.
Okay. And then what would be the time complexity of like doing this whole thing?
Well, reversing it is going to be an extra O of n. And when you're looping, it's going to also be O of n. So if you reverse it separately, it'll still be O of n. You're not doing it within the loop, right? You do it at the beginning. So yeah, and then all the other operations are not negligible because dot split. That's, yeah.
Okay.
And you're looping, because you are looping through both. I mean, if you have a nested for loop, it'll be O of n squared. But if you're just looping through one, I guess, yeah, it would be O of n squared because you're looping through both of them, right? You'll have a nested loop. Yeah.
Okay. So do you want to code this thing? Or actually, sorry, you said it would be O of n squared?
O of n squared if I decide to loop through both of them. But if I just do like a while I is less than j pointer thing, then it'll just be O of n. So.
Yeah, that's right. So which one would it be here?
While I less than j.
Okay. Yeah. So do you want to code this thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll have, first I'll do the dot split. I'll just call them num1 and num2. And then I can have the beginning be and the end. So that's just splitting on the decimal point, and these are strings. And then same thing for S2. I'm reversing just the beginning of those ones. So or I can just do reversed. I don't think this is in place, so
It's fine because you have to, like, you're making a new string anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
yeah. S to the beginning. That, yeah. Okay. And those are both the int parts. And then carry I can just set to 0. And here I can, and I is going to be, well, we want not, I don't think we need a j for now, but I should be less than the length of the smaller string. So actually, even before this, I can say this is just looking for the minimum between num1 and num2.
Okay.
The length of each. Right. So then less than smaller string. So if you have beginning of S, actually if I do it as, yeah, because we're only processing one part of it at a time, num1 of I. And I'm casting that to an int. Not num1 of I. This one beginning. And then adding that to S1 of, or S2, the beginning of S2. This might be in place. That might be why it's yellow, yeah. Okay. And when you add those together, you need somewhere to store it. So int total. Because the only thing that with this might be, you can't add extra because we need to keep track of the carry. So if this is, yeah, I'll call that int total. And if int total is greater than 9, then carry will just be 10 minus int total absolute value of that. Because we're not dealing with negatives, so that shouldn't be an issue with that. Right, otherwise carry would be 0. And then we have to add carry somewhere. We have, they're both reversed. If we have 21 and 3, or 29 and 3, add that, we get 11, and the 1 will be carried over, so it's not 10, right? It's mod 10. You would add just the extra digit, and any digit, if you're just adding 2 digits, it's not going to give you, actually, it could be like 9. Yeah. And it'll just give you 1 bigger than that. Right, because if it's above 9, you know that it's double digits. So you could just extract the first digit before. Yeah, you could turn it into a string. And then have the first part of that, because it's never going to be like, you're going to have a carry which is bigger than 1 digit. So, oh, my bad. So we know that the carry will always be the first part of that in total string at 0. And we need to make sure that in total is just going to be the second part casted to an int. Okay. And then similarly for the ends. So you can have decimal total. But we don't have to worry about the decimal point because we already did that with the split. I is less than full string. Yeah, and every time we're incrementing I, so I don't think we would need J. The only problem might be, yeah, okay. I'll just keep doing it for the decimal total. And you convert that to a string and you have the carry. And for this carry, we want that to be a separate one. So this. The only thing is with the pointers, I'm not so sure because if it's lesser than a smaller string, then that's going to terminate way too early. We reversed it. Oh, the zeros, right? We add the zeros for the decimal part. So even though that's in order, we could do that actually here. For whichever one is smaller for the decimal part. add if length of S1, which is the decimal part, if this is smaller than that, then we'll want to add zeros at the end until it gets to the length of S2. So that would be its own loop. And we'd start from the length of S1 end, and we would want to end at this length because we're just adding zeros until it gets to that. So that, yeah. So S1 end, we would add a 0. I believe that should work. To the length of that. Would that be one extra?
I'm not sure. So let's say like 1 is like 2 and 1's like 5. So that would be like 3 to 5. So it'd be like 3, 4. I think it's... Or sorry, it would be 2, 3, 4. No, I think that's right.
Okay. And otherwise, we'll just add it to the other one from the length of S2 plus 1.
Actually, I think this one might be 2. So on 28, I think it might be 1 less.
Oh, right, because it's
Yeah.
the length is 1 more. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and then that would cushion it with zeros.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The only logic I think is a little bit off is for the condition for the while loop. Because you're going through, you're adding, this should be like J. We should have a separate one for that because the lengths won't be the same. For the other one, it doesn't matter as much, but for this one, the condition should be we want it to keep going until you get to the end of the larger string.
Mm-hmm.
So then, yeah, you could do a max and then put the larger string there. But I don't want it to go out of bounds. So if it's adding these two, we can, but we're reversing it anyways. So even though you're reversing it, you will need to add extra zeros because when you add extra zeros to the back, it'll be to the front, right? So then, so then we can do the same thing there. Oh. Or you could just have J be separate and not have to do that. Right, if you have J incrementing for this, anyways, it's going to, and just have like a check to see if you've either passed the length of I or the length of J. I mean, the length of S1, then you can break out of the loop. Or padding with zeros would be, I think, more work a bit better.
Okay.
because you want to catch all of the cases, so. And that wouldn't add anything extra, I don't think, because even though you're reversing it, it's not going to be like a bigger number.
Yeah, it makes sense. You can add zeros. I don't think it costs you anything because you have to make the thing anyway.
Yeah. So yeah, the beginning. And that looks right. So now it won't matter. We don't have to check the max or anything because it's we padded it with zeros to make it equivalent. So we can say we should probably traverse through these separately for the integer part and the decimal part, because so we can make it the length of S1 beginning, and then we won't need that check, and then increment I each time. J can just be for the other loops, so
Okay. Okay, so they're basically both exactly the same size now, right? You're saying?
yes.
Okay, sure.
Because with the zeros, and you'd have J add 1. So yeah, for both of them. And then, okay, the carries we have to take care of. So the carries will be for the next time. So we should just add the carry every single time. But only thing is we're calculating the carry. I could just repeat the work. It'll be a little bit extra, but if this is greater than 9, then you're going to add the carry is going to be that, and either way you're going to add that to the total. This was
So you have a type error for the carry. You can't do a plus with a string. So why do you think that is?
for this thing.
Yeah.
I was just deleting it, but
okay.
Because I was trying to move this after the else.
Okay.
And then the carry will be 0, but I mean, just in case you can add it, I guess. No, wait, the carry. Oh, because it's.
So there is no. You have a total here, and you don't have it calculated, right?
Oh.
So this thing doesn't even exist.
Yeah. Okay. I can just have a separate variable. Yeah, and the carry isn't even. Actually, I don't know why there's a type error for that. Does it have to be? Is it in decimals that way?
So you're storing it as a string here, is why.
Oh, my bad. Okay, so I'll have this as temp, and yeah, because the total we only want to add it if it's calculated the carry. Okay, well, I mean, we already know that we'll change in total to be this. This is the second part of the string, and then This is the first part of the string, but we want to turn that into an int and turn both of those into ints. Okay, so we have the carry and we have the int total. And that's why I did, but the int total is still.
Okay, I think let's stop here because we're at time. Then we can
Okay.
just do feedback. So, yeah, what are the things you think you did well? What are the things like you think you did the worst that you need to improve on the most?
What do I think?
Yeah.
Oh, well, keeping track of time and
Yeah.
yeah. I think I just get lost sometimes when I'm trying to talk while doing it. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I feel like if I know exactly what I'm going to do, like lay out the algorithm like really well before coding it,
Hmm.
uh, there'd be more direction. Um, yeah, and I don't think I mentioned any edge cases. I think I did maybe a little bit. Just yeah, identifying that it's like positive and different lengths and stuff, and trying to go for the brute force approach. So I think
Hmm.
I'm good at like explaining what I'm doing, just not uh, following through.
Got it. Okay, yeah. Yeah, so basically I would say that so ideally we would have had two problems and you would have had them done. So definitely I think you're quite far from like being able to pass that. So I would recommend maybe do like easier problems. And
Mhm.
there's a couple of categories I feel like that you struggled a lot. So I'm just gonna point it out. So you did come up with like the edge cases and the problem and stuff. I think one of the pain points you had was coming up with something that that like works basically in the beginning. Like I gave you a decent amount of hints, so I said like you for example you were like I'm gonna split this thing into two numbers and then I'm gonna like do those parts separately, and then you're like okay so I'm gonna look for a decimal. So like ideally you have enough Python knowledge to know you can just use like a split and then that saves you a ton of time.
Mhm.
Um, then the other problem is you kind of weren't super sure on how to like add the numbers. So there's like two solutions. This solution you picked does work, and that's actually the one that I came up with when I first got asked this question. But it's harder to code. So the easiest solution is actually just pad right away and then do a reverse. Then you can just add everything directly, and that'll just like work. It's basically just add two numbers with a padding, but it's
Okay.
kind of hard to come up with. Uh, so I think it's totally fine that you came up with this one. But I think the biggest category you struggled with was your code, like quality and like your separation of stuff was like very, very bad, I think.
Mhm.
So for example, you have a lot of like repeated like it's like the really obvious stuff, right? You have a lot of repeated logic like here you have like this if else if else if else if else. So you can figure out like how do I make this better? So something you could have done was you could split your stuff and then maybe you could say something like if S1 beginning is like bigger than S2 beginning or whatever, the length, if these two are bigger, then like do a swap. And then you know for sure like one of them is always smaller, right? So maybe the first one's always smaller. Now you don't have to check for all these things because there's only like you eliminate one of these cases. So that's like a common pattern is like you always make the first thing smaller or bigger, or whatever, and then you can do stuff. The other thing that would have been good for like just modularity was you're basically doing this like padding with zeros like over and over and over. So it would have been good to have like a padding with zeros function that you could have just like called over and over. So I think general good rules like if you have the same code like 7 times, it's probably good to like extract it out. And it's kind of a pain in an interview, but I definitely think that would give you bonus points. Like if you use something once or twice and you don't want to like extract it out, fine. But if it's like all over the place, you should probably show that you can like modularize your code a little better. So it would have been good to have like a padding function. The other thing is, yeah, you were definitely going in the wrong direction. Where like I really wasn't sure what you were doing with the like the while loop thing, because you were like you saw which string was smaller and you were trying to do the decimal and the int total at the same time, but they were like in like different strings and you were comparing the original string, so that just like didn't make any sense. But you did kind of figure out. I think you figured out the right solution towards the end. Um, so so honestly, like I think you were very, very close to getting a solution, but some of the things was like definitely work on like code quality. So like take this problem, do it again, feed it into LLM and be like, if this was production code, what would this look like or something like that. And then you'd get a good idea of stuff like that. Because I know with like especially for like students. You know, you do a lot of LeetCode, you do a lot of like projects, and you've never like worked on a production code base, or maybe you have, maybe you haven't. And so if your code is like bad enough in terms of code quality, I think that's a red flag because it just shows that like you don't know what production code looks like. And if I had to code review your stuff, it would be like I'd tell you to like redo it a bunch of times. Now, obviously nowadays with an LLM, you can like write this and you can say like fix it and like maybe that's not a problem. But it's also good to know like how to do this yourself.
Right.
Um, and oh yeah, the other thing, this was also like very like not very good because you were like converting stuff back and forth and it was like very hard to see what you were doing. So like the way easier thing would have been like, you know, you have like car one or whatever is like whatever string one at I, int, something like this, right? So you basically it's the same thing like modularizing to make your stuff a lot more readable. And then just be like star two or whatever this thing is. And then you could say like total equals whatever, like car one plus car two plus carry or something. And then you could have like your carry, so this would be like this. And then you could say like carry is total this, and then you could say like remainder or something. Equals total like that. And now you can use all your values and it's very clear like what's what and you're not casting everything all over the place. And like this is very easy to read, right? So now you could like store all your stuff correctly and it's like very easy to read. So definitely like if you compare that to like what you have down here where you have a total that you're storing as a string and then you like or you're storing as an int and then you convert it into a string and then you did this like really weird hack which yeah I thought it was like completely unnecessary where you have like a total and then so let's say you have 10 and you want basically what you want is you want the carry, right? So like you
Yeah.
turned it into a string and you took like the first character which I thought was just like the weirdest thing ever. um so yeah, definitely like try to work on more like I guess like standard solutions. I mean the other thing you could have said was you could have said instead of if total is greater than 9 you could just make the carry 1 because the carry will never be bigger than 1. But either way you want to have like you don't just want to have a working solution to a problem because once it's messy enough, like that's a pretty big coding red flag. And like you know, you want to your code needs to hit like a certain bar of like you know standardization and like modularity and whatever.
Hmm.
And so people do get into this. Well, I want to finish the problem, so I'm just gonna like take this while block and copy it like 10 times because that'll make it work. And that's just like not the best. So definitely work on you know once you do have a solution, how can I actually make it like as good as possible? And I think LLMs are great for that. You literally just feed your solution to an LLM and be like, hey, here's what I have. How can I fix it? And then you'll learn basically like you know what better code needs to look like because like as a software engineer, you need to have like decent code standards. And for right now, you know, most companies aren't letting you use AI, so then you have to like do that on your own.
Hmm.
Maybe that'll change, and then you can just like write whatever. Like a lot of times, I'll write whatever, and then just tell LLM to like refactor it, and like saves you a lot of time. Um, but yeah, I think those are the biggest things. Is like speed. Obviously, keep track of time because ideally we would have had like I think for a strong passing solution, we would finish 2 problems, and you were kind of close to finishing one, and then um, yeah, basically in your problem solving, speed up a little bit, try to get a little bit less hints, and then in your coding, definitely you know like have it cleaner. And then as I mean, I kind of told you this, right? Like the harder solution you come up with in your plan, the like it's doable, but it's going to be harder to code. So you came up with a harder one, and it was harder to code, but still totally doable. But yeah, this one like it's not like there is no like crazy algorithm here. It mostly tests like can you take a problem, can you break it down to steps, and can you code it pretty well. Um, and yeah, like I think it's a good one to work on like code quality and like general problem solving. Also, it's like no one asks this stuff in like the LeetCode 150 or something, so you can't just have like a memorized solution. So it
Hmm.
shows like how you think and stuff like that. Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Are there any resources you'd recommend? Because I've seen whenever I feed my solution on LeetCode to ChatGPT, it'll just give me the actual solution and it'll be like, oh, you're way off.
So
So,
I would okay. So for example, I have ChatGPT open right now, so I will let's see. So I'm gonna open ChatGPT and I'm gonna say like I have a solution and then we'll see what it comes up with. So it won't be a LeetCode. So I don't like you can use any decent LLM. So if you have a paid one, if you have like a paid ChatGPT or paid Gemini, you can just feed into there. So if we're adding decimals, here's my code. Let's see. Yeah, and then like make it better and clean. So I'll literally just feed like this interview into ChatGPT and just say clean it up, and then see. Okay, so there we go. So like I took that, and here's what I got. Didn't copy the whole thing. Okay, so if we take a look, like you could see it basically splits it. It does some maybe unnecessary stuff. Like I don't know what this 2 thing is, but it does the padding thing that you did, and then it builds the numbers. I think this is like, yeah, this is definitely like not exactly what you want because it looks like it's just like adding them directly. It's doing some weird stuff, so I would give it more stuff. So I'd say like keep my like usually what I do when it takes a solution that's completely different from mine. So I'll even say that I'll say like keep the same algorithm, just get rid of redundancies. So because a lot of times what you do is like you give it a solution that's not the best, and then it'll just like do its own thing, and it was like, what's the point of this? So basically I just say like don't change any part of the algorithm, literally just like clean up my code and then leave everything the same. Yeah, I still don't know what this like zfill thing is. So I would probably prompt a little bit better, but yeah. Okay, so it gave me something. This is still not great. So this is what it was. It's still like not great, but it's still like better. And now you can notice like, oh, hey, there's this like thing that adds reverse digits and returns to me a digit and a carry. Well, I could have used that in all of my things, right? Because like the front and the back, you could just call this twice and then you would get this thing and a carry. Yeah, so this is basically what it did. So it added the fractional part, it added the integer part, and then it added the carry to the integer part that you got from the first part, which is like here. So, and then normalized, I mean, you can say like you probably don't need like any of this or whatever, but this is still like, and yeah, you could probably say like I don't need any of that because I think it's just doing a lot more checks that I said couldn't exist. So maybe it'll handle like negative numbers and all that stuff. But yeah, like so imagine you have something like this where you pad everything, you get the max like you had, you have a helper function to add numbers, and then you just call that helper function. And now you could see like there's almost no repeated work here. Like you're basically adding the fractional part, you're adding the digits part, and then you're adding it together and adding a carry. So this is like a lot less repeated work than what you had. And then what you can do is like you can know like, okay, this is roughly what it looks like. Now let me delete it all and let me see if I can code this myself, knowing how it's supposed to look like and make sure I have like good like coding practice and stuff like that. But yeah, sometimes the solutions are quite kind of bad and I just like disregard them, but sometimes they're quite good. And so and yeah, you can also basically prompt and like get better solutions, or like it'll give you some stuff and you could say don't use that, don't use this, whatever. Yeah, I also wasn't sure. So you did. So if you do character to an int in Python, does that give you the character value? Like if I do int 0, does that actually even give me 0? I have no idea. Like I don't know if this gives me like the ASCII value or what this does. But yeah, wasn't quite sure. Like, do you know?
For strings, it does, right?
It does. Okay.
I don't know. I'm assuming.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. But yeah, so that's what I would do is like get like figure out what things need to look like in like modular code, and then make sure your code is like modular enough. Like it doesn't have to be crazy good, but it can't just be like, oh, I have this thing and I need to use it 10 times. So I'm just going to do this real quick. And like, now my problem works, you know?
Yeah.
So there is like limits on like what you can do, I guess. And you were quite close to like hitting those limits, I feel like.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Especially with like the hacking like strings into, or numbers into strings and getting digits out of them instead of doing just like normal number operations, stuff like that. And then yeah, so basically, yeah, you can definitely feel free to practice a little bit more, and then Um, so when you do problems as well, try to time yourself, and then like if you are not close to the time that you need to do like 2 mediums in 40 minutes, then you can also just like if you want to book another one, you can book like an easier format, and then you'll have like more time. So that's what I did myself is like I practiced medium problems and I made sure that I could do them under the time limit that I needed for like the companies, and then you know that's how I knew I could do them fast enough basically, and that's how you can get like more time aware and stuff like that.
Do you have a more efficient way of doing LeetCode? Because I've been doing it for the past like 6 months, and I feel like
Uh-huh.
I only can do problems that I've seen before, or I can do ones that I haven't, but it won't be good code. So
Yes. So okay, so first of all, do you know like all the topics at least like reasonably?
I hope so. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, usually what I do is so I use this thing. This is what I did. I'll send it to you in the Google Meet. So this is like a LeetCode ELO thing, and you can figure out. So basically, this gives like LeetCode problems in ELO. Some of them don't have it, but you can figure out kind of like what category you're doing problems in, like what rank roughly you're at, and then you can like do problems of that rank, and then do higher as you get better. Because the problem I found is like I don't know what problems you do. Like when you say you've been doing it for 6 months, like how do you get problems to do?
First, I went pattern wise, and then I
Uh-huh.
started doing randomly.
So how do you pick randomly? Like you just do a random problem off like the neat code list or something?
Yeah, I have a list of like 3,000 questions, and I go through all the
Right.
medium.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the problem with the medium, for example, is so there's the like ratings here. So I think problems on LeetCode any go from anywhere like 1,200 to like 2,800, and I think a medium can be anywhere from like 1,400 to like 2,200, which is insane distribution.
Hmm.
So you might get a medium that's like 1,400, which might be like 5 minutes. And then you might get a medium that's like 2,200, which is like a hard faang on-site problem. And they
Yeah.
both say medium. So it's not really good to do like mediums. It's good to more focus on rating, I feel like, using this thing. Because then you can get a consistent like level and you can figure out where you're at, and then you can like make sure to like move up and do problems that are harder. So let's say you do some problems like all over the place and you find, oh, I can do like 1,500 problems. So then you do those. And then after a while you can do like 1,600, 1,700. But you don't do this like some people do the dailies, which is even worse because one day you'll get like, like a post order problem, whatever, which is like 2 lines of code, and then some other you'll get some like matrix multiplication, inverse, whatever, insanity.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make any sense. So yeah, basically you want to do problems now that you're like familiar with topics. I mean, I guess like I'll take your word for it, but like if you're familiar with topics, you can do random problems, and then make sure you do the category that you know, and then it's totally fine to like do problems and look up solutions, but you want to like develop intuition as you do more and more problems, and then move up basically in like the rating of problems you do. And it's also good to like always challenge yourself, like always do problems you're like not comfortable with. Like if everything you do is like super easy for you, then you're not really learning. So
Hmm.
so I think that's what I would recommend. So for me myself, I do things that are like around 2,000 to 2,200 ish. So maybe I'd recommend doing some things that are like 1,500 or so. See how that is. If it's too easy, go higher. If it's too hard, go down, and just do consistent problems that are like around the same. Um, and yeah,
That makes sense.
yeah. Because if you think about like any game or anything, like does it make sense? Like let's say you play chess. Like if every other game you play a grandmaster and then like a person who's completely new, like what do you learn from that? You either
Yeah.
like win in 5 moves or you lose in 5 moves, and you don't learn anything either way. So.
Yeah. That's why I feel like I'm memorizing solutions sometimes because yeah.
Yeah, that's the other thing. You want to avoid memorizing solutions. You want to learn data structures and algorithms in depth. Another good thing is for the data structures you use, try to make them from scratch. So to like make a heap from scratch, make a deck from scratch, make like all these things from scratch, I think helps. And then yeah, try to like as you do more problems, you'll learn more algorithms. They'll be harder, and you'll basically just get better. Like once you get to like a hard, like once you could solve hard enough level problems, once they're hard enough, even if you like read the editorial and you just understand the editorial and like you can code it after doing that, that will be enough to get you a lot better because they're like so difficult. At least that's what I found. So,
Mhm.
um, but the main thing is definitely don't do stuff that's like automatic for you that you can do in like 5 minutes, and like always challenge yourself and do harder and harder stuff.
For sure.
But don't do stuff that's like you have literally no idea what it is. You know, if you're doing like 1500, don't do like some crazy thing because then it's like you won't understand anything. You'll memorize a solution. You won't remember anything. It's just a waste of time.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. So yeah, so you can feel free to try that and let me know how that goes for you. And then yeah, basically just do enough. Like for most people, from what I've seen, like no one can do anything in the beginning. You just do enough, and then some people will get better faster, some people will get slower, but everyone gets better, and you just have to do enough.
For sure, for sure.
Okay, cool. Well, is there anything else?
I don't know if have you done object-oriented programming type of questions?
Oh yeah.
Because I haven't seen any of those on LeetCode, and I got that type of question in an interview,
Uh huh.
and so I was just like, and I couldn't find it anywhere online. That
Yeah,
specific.
that's where so LeetCode for the most part your code quality is like whatever. If you get those and your code quality is trash, it's going to be terrible because
Yeah,
like you're not going to be able to format like you have to organize stuff well for those. Otherwise it's not going to be good. So for that, so I think they have it on Hello Interview now. They actually have like level of design. So I'd probably look at that. Like they have some and they're doing videos on it. So I think that's a good one. Also NeetCode has some. Also you can just ask an LLM. I think I did like some of all well they didn't have the Hello Interview ones, but I think I just asked an LLM like, "Hey, give me a low level design problem, like 5 out of 10 difficulty. Give me 3 parts or whatever, something like that." And that was like pretty good.
Is there not any other platforms and stuff that are just for?
So Hello Interview has it and has free
Oh,
YouTube videos for it. So I'd look there.
for sure, for sure.
Yeah, I might do. I was considering doing some of those problems for like these types of mocks. Most people don't ask for it, and or do like a 50-50 where I'll say like implement a generic like deck where like it can take in any kind of input and here's the things you need to write and it needs to be like pretend this is like a user facing deck. You need to make sure you have like, you know, the private stuff like private, you need to have like public facing stuff, things like that. But I feel like people will struggle that with that, especially for like new grad. Uh,
Mm,
so I'm gonna see how that goes with asking people that are like a little bit higher and then yeah, get some results based on that. I think those kind of questions would actually be good though, because like they're not on any list for the most part, and they really show people's understanding and like people's code quality. So yeah,
yeah.
yeah, definitely the object oriented is mostly just like, do you know? So what helped me a lot is I used to code in Python a lot, and then I switched to Java, and basically Java forces like modular code on you. And so I got a lot better at that. Python, you can just like throw 50 things into a function and it works. In Java, like it wouldn't compile. So you have to write things that are like separate and like good and whatever. So by just coding in Java for like 6 months, I feel like I got a lot better at that stuff.
I feel like it's the opposite for me because I was used to doing it in Java and then I switched to Python and I feel like I can't do anything in Python. But
Or okay,
yeah,
well, yeah. So if you're used to Java, then you should be pretty used to like because you have to have like interfaces and inheritance and all that stuff. Like you can't just put it all in one thing, right?
right. No, I
So
just didn't know the syntax in Python. That's why I was
oh, okay.
struggling.
Yeah, yeah. So that's the other thing is like when you switch to a language, like when I first switched to Java, my speed was like 0. So you need to get over the hurdle of like knowing the language. So your main bottleneck isn't like, how do I write this again? It's like, how do I actually like, what's the solution here? Like the writing of the language should be like the easy part.
Right.
So I think with that's just do enough Python. But yeah, so I would look on here. Let me actually. I think yeah, like I don't think it's a premium thing. I think it's free. Plus they have videos on it. But even if it's a premium thing, I'd probably suggest getting it. They have like a lifetime thing for it. So here I'll link it in the meet. They have like in a hurry, and then they have like a normal one. And yeah, they basically have like free YouTube videos on it. I use it to learn system design. I thought it was very very good. So you can like look at their YouTube, and I think they have videos on this too. And then you could do the problems in here, and I think that'll be like good enough for you. So
Cool. Sounds good.
okay, cool. All right. Well, see ya.
See you.